The deeper he walked into the tunnel, the greater the soil moisture and air humidity. The incoming air almost felt like real water droplets. There was a strange hissing sound from the depths of the tunnel, accompanied by a banging noise. Tang Mo tried to control every step to 70 centimeters and counted the seconds in his heart. He couldn't go so quickly that he wouldn't be able to defend against sneak attacks. He also couldn't go too slowly because the mission only had 20 minutes. By the time Tang Mo counted to 560 seconds, a faint whining sound caught his attention. He carefully identified the sound and quickly discovered it was a human voice. Tang Mo quickened his pace for 30 seconds and saw a blood-stained blonde man at the edge of the tunnel. The man was wearing a McDonald's uniform like the reddish-brown-haired man and was lying breathlessly against the wall. There was a big hole on the left side of his forehead and blood flowed down from the hole, wetting the left side of his face. His right leg was twisted in a strange posture. The lower leg was at a 90-degree right angle and the whites of the bones were exposed. Once he saw the light of the kerosene lamp, the blonde-haired man looked up at him with difficulty. He cried out once he saw Tang Mo go. Go quickly. That monster is scary. You have to go. Ding dong. Tip, you can currently choose to exit the instance. Do you want to exit it? Tang Mo had counted the first 610 seconds in silence and half of the 20 minutes was left. He replied as he made up his mind. I won't quit. Tang Mo looked at the blonde-haired man. The red vertical striped t-shirt and bright yellow vest was no different from the red-haired man. Tang Mo looked at the blonde man's shoulder and leg again. The t-shirt was stuck at the shoulders and the length of the pant leg was very suitable. These clothes were his own. It seemed that this man and the reddish-brown-haired man who just fled were employees doing some type of work here. Tang Mo looked at the man's name tag on his left chest and spoke to the blonde man. Cavis, what is that monster? Cavis raised his head in a daze when he heard his name from Tang Mo's mouth. Do you know me? Tang Mo's expression didn't change as he reacted quickly. I am the new worker who has come to take over the shift. You turned out to be a new colleague. Cavis struggled to raise his upper body with body hands in order to lean against the wall. Tang Mo helped raise his body and made his position more comfortable. Cavis smiled wryly. I won't live long, half an hour at most. Perhaps I won't be able to hold up until other people come. Tang Mo looked at the big hole in Cavis' head and thought in his heart, a normal person would have died already. There is a devil inside. You don't want to go in. It is terrible, it is crazy. Cavis seemed to think about something terrible as his scared face distorted. He kept saying, I can't escape. You can escape. Don't care about me and leave. Maybe you can escape. Exactly 1 minute had passed. Tang Mo wanted to tell this Cavis not to talk nonsense and quickly explain. But he had to be tolerant. Cavis, you aren't going to die. What the hell is that? The hissing sound got close and the monster suddenly let out a sharp howl. The tunnel started to shake violently. Cavis' head struck the wall and more blood poured from the hole. Tang Mo almost fell. He went down on one knee, propping himself against the wall as he asked again, what is it? Finally, this time Cavis didn't speak nonsense. It is a big earthworm. My god, you have never seen such a big earthworm. It is a monster. The boss said that audiences like to see this type of novelty the most. As you know, every spectator who comes to the circus wants to see things that can't be seen in ordinary life. The more curious they are, the more they enjoy it and seek stimulation. A big earthworm, the circus. Tang Mo memorized these 2 keywords. I have said that the monster is a big earthworm. The head of the group wants to use it to make money. Now the earthworm has gone crazy and wants to kill me. It is going to escape. The hissing sound came closer and Cavis immediately said, Companion, you should go first. It must have freed itself from the cage. Go and don't worry about me. It is just an earthworm. I will kill it. Tang Mo currently didn't have many abilities but he should be able to kill an earthworm. Cavis thought that Tang Mo was unwilling to give up on him and was moved. If you really want to kill it, I have a weapon here. Quickly take it. I just used it to hit the head of the earthworm and escaped from the cave. It didn't catch up with me so this should kill it. Cavis handed a large wooden stick on the ground to Tang Mo. Tang Mo intended to refuse. However, he couldn't say anything as his expression suddenly changed and he picked up the wooden stick. Cavis warned, Companion, you must be small. The last word wasn't spoke as Cavis saw his strange new colleague rushing out. The left hand carried a kerosene lamp while the right hand held a big stick. Tang Mo rushed deep into the tunnel at great speed. Cavis curiously muttered, why is the new colleague so anxious? Cavis didn't know that the moment he took out the wooden stick, a child's voice was heard in Tang Mo's mind. Ding dong. The single-person instance game Kill Bill has been officially opened. During the game first, the use of all abilities is prohibited. Second, players can only use the kerosene lamp for lighting. Third, only the big stick can damage the earthworm. The circus leader has prepared 3 types of treasures and is intending to surprise the audience in the underground city tomorrow night. However, he is destined to go bankrupt. Even the rats in the dungeon knows that Bill can't see the light. There were only 5 minutes of mission time left so Tang Mo had no time to speak nonsense with Cavis. He rushed forward and ran straight down the tunnel. After running for a minute, Tang Mo's left hand suddenly hit the wall. He borrowed the force to roll back and steadily land. The kerosene lamp in his hand shook slightly, spilling a few drops of oil. In the dim light of the kerosene lamp, a huge shadow appeared in front of Tang Mo. Tang Mo grunted and tried to calm himself down. This earthworm was much bigger than Tang Mo imagined. The tunnel was 2 meters high and the earthworm's size accounted for half of that. In the place where the kerosene lamp didn't reach, the earthworm's tail slammed against the wall. Once it saw Tang Mo, it made a shrill sound and raised its dark head. Then it rushed towards the kerosene lamp in Tang Mo's hands. Tang Mo reacted quickly and moved sideways. He ran back 3 meters and placed the kerosene lamp on the ground. This distance allowed the light from the kerosene lamp to shine on the earthworm and prevented the kerosene lamp from being hit by the earthworm. The earthworm found that it couldn't destroy the hateful light and screamed angrily. The next moment, it opened its toothless mouth and bit Tang Mo's shoulder. Tang Mo moved his right leg to avoid the assault. He waved the big stick and struck the earthworm in the back while it was trying to bite him. He used 10% of his strength when swinging the stick. Unexpectedly, Tang Mo was hit by a huge shockwave and fell against the wall. The large earthworm twisted its body but there was only a small injury on the back. Tang Mo's eyes narrowed and he hurried to attack. The earthworm's shell was like the hardest armor. Every time Tang Mo's stick descended, only a small injury was left. Now Tang Mo realized why Jack had been annoyed finding a way to defeat the S3 instance, despite being so strong. After being instructed by the Black Tower to prepare for the tower attack game, Tang Mo planned out his life for the next 10 days. For the first 7 days, he would try to find as many stowaways as possible and copy their ability. For the remaining 3 days, he would use the help of the attack organization to enter a variety of S-type instances. He would try to pass the instance and get the prop rewards. From the beginning, Luo Fengcheng only let Tang Mo see the map with the entrances to the 3 most dangerous instances. He didn't show the map of the 7 S-type instances. Therefore, Tang Mo could only stay near the shopping mall and track attacks members to find the entrances. It must be a S-type instance if the attack member entered. All other instances were too dangerous. There was no player in this world willing to take the risk. Tang Mo also didn't dare take this risk. Tang Mo spent a day and a night near the mall and finally picked Jack. During this time, he heard about it from the other reserve players in the mall. Jack was one of the most powerful people in the attack organization. His strength lay in not his intelligence, but in that terrible body. Originally, Tang Mo thought that the S3 instance was an intellectual puzzle. Tang Mo missed a key clue and couldn't defeat the powerful Black Tower monster in the instance. Now Tang Mo finally understood. Abilities weren't allowed to be used and he could only use this big stick to hit the earthworm. This was why Jack was willing to enter the S3 instance again and again. If he had the physical fitness of other players, he would have probably given up after playing it once. Tang Mo's physique was far worse than Jack's. He used the narrow terrain so that the earthworm couldn't hit him. But the steel shell of the earthworm didn't give him a chance to hit the target. It was as if he was playing hide and seek with the earthworm as they continuously collided in the narrow tunnel. Tang Mo's foot slipped and the earthworm's head hit his abdomen. He flew back and fell by the kerosene lamp. Tang Mo wiped the blood at the corners of his mouth and looked at the earthworm not far away. The big earthworm raised its head and hissed a warning to Tang Mo suddenly. It once again tried to hit the kerosene lamp with its head. Tang Mo took the kerosene lamp and ran backwards. The light of the kerosene lamp flashed in the tunnel. Tang Mo ran faster and faster, while the chasing earthworm also became quicker. As the two of them ran to the place where Cavis was lying, there was a sound in Tang Mo's head. Ding dong. The time is up and the main task of Kill Bill has failed. Tang Mo's heart tightened as a white light filled the area. It was so bright that he couldn't open his eyes. The white light gradually weakened and Tang Mo opened his eyes in the darkness again. The strong earthy smell and the sound of the large earthworm hitting the tunnel was gone. Tang Mo took a deep breath and suppressed the tension and fear in his heart. After a moment, he took out his flashlight and looked around. It was a wide underground cave with a 2-meter-tall tunnel. He had gone back to the beginning area. Tang Mo bowed his head and looked at his hand. He stretched his fingers and clenched them. This was repeated 3 times. I'm still alive. The mission failed but there is no death or punishment, this is a S-type instance. Tang Mo whispered to himself. He checked his back and left arm. He had been inevitably hit when struggling with the big earthworm. The earthworm had high strength and could bruise the opponent, even without any teeth. Tang Mo's back and left arm had been directly hit by the head of the earthworm. But now he had no wounds on his body. Tang Mo looked at his right hand again. 3 minutes ago, he had been holding the wooden stick in his hand and hitting the earthworm again and again. The earthworm's shell was cracked several times by Tang Mo while Tang Mo was also injured by the strong shock. Now his hands were restored. Tang Mo's lips narrowed as he turned and rushed into the tunnel again. This time, he was very fast. He met the red-haired circus staff carrying a kerosene lamp in 3 minutes. My god, are you the colleague who was sent to take over? Tang Mo looked at the other person carefully. His expression wasn't very good because of the mission failure just now. The red-haired employee looked at him and asked, what happened to your partner? Why did you come in at this time? Bill is crazy. Look at all my injuries. They are from Bill. I came to take over. What happened to Bill? Tang Mo looked down at the 2 wounds on the man's chest. Blood was coming from 2 shocking wounds. Fortunately, the wound wasn't very deep and didn't pierce the ribs. Just like Cavis could speak properly with a hole in his head, this red-haired man could run and jump. The man seemed to think of something terrible. Bill, how should I know what happened with Bill? He suddenly attacked me. Ah yes, if you came to take over, wait here first. I'll go and find someone. I will come back, I'll be back. Tang Mo skillfully took the kerosene lamp. He didn't even look at the man as he ran into the tunnel at his fastest speed. A minute later, he saw Cavis. Cavis was still laying on the ground. His blonde hair was tinged with blood. Once he saw Tang Mo, his first words were, go, go. The monster is terrible. You, Tang Mo interrupted. I won't quit. Cavis gasped. Tang Mo ignored him. He directly picked up the big stick on the ground and headed into the dark tunnel. However, only 3 steps were taken. Tang Mo turned his head and looked at Cavis, lying on the ground and unable to move. Cavis gulped. Companion, why did you come back? Tang Mo calmly looked down at him. The next second, he leaned down and started, taking the clothes. Cavis panicked. See companion. I'm not gay. You, what are you doing? Tang Mo ignored him and directly stripped Cavis of his uniform. Tang Mo looked at the socks and white underwear left on Cavis' body. He hesitated for a moment but didn't take the 2 items of clothing. He held the uniform and turned away. You, Cavis' voice was choked up. He lay naked in the muddy tunnel and watched as the strange new colleague took his clothes and walked into the tunnel. Once Tang Mo ran deep into the tunnel, he saw the cave that the big earthworm had broken out of. At the end of the narrow tunnel was a broad cavern. On one side of the cavern was a cupboard, a table, and 2 chairs. There were still beer bottles on the table and many peanut shells thrown on the floor. The large earthworm's cage took up most of the space in the cavern. Once it saw Tang Mo, the large earthworm rushed out of the broken cage, screaming as it attacked. Tang Mo ran back into the tunnel. The earthworm immediately followed. Tang Mo opened the lid of the kerosene lamp and set Kavis' uniform on fire. The weak flame hit the cotton cloth and it immediately burned. Tang Mo didn't waste any clothes. He used every one of Kavis' clothing to the extreme. The shirt was burned and thrown to one side of the tunnel. The vest was burned and sent to the other side. Even the red bow tie was burned, as it was thrown into the center of the tunnel as a small fireball. The big earthworm had changed Tang Mo into the tunnel and hadn't even touched him yet. Once it saw so many flames, it moved back, wanting to return to the underground cave. Tang Mo directly took off his coat, lit it with the kerosene lamp and threw it behind the earthworm, blocking the way. The large earthworm was almost burned by this fire. It turned angrily and rushed towards Tang Mo. Tang Mo took off his thin white sweater and placed a corner of the sweater into the kerosene lamp, slowing igniting it. In the spluttering firelight, Tang Mo's face was very cold and indifferent. He threw his sweater to the left side of the big earthworm while staring at the earthworm in front of him. Now there is 15 minutes. We can play for a long time. The big earthworm screamed angrily while Tang Mo rushed up to it with a wooden stick. The third rule of the game, only the big stick could cause damage to the big earthworm. From the mission failure, returning to the starting point and going to the cave where the prisoner was held, it took a short 10 minutes. Tang Mo triggered the main mission and rushed deep into the tunnel at the fastest speed, saving time. Meanwhile, he had thought about how to defeat this earthworm. Only the big stick could damage the earthworm, but it was afraid of light. Ordinary earthworms were afraid of the sun because they were invertebrates that used the skin to breathe. Their body surface must remain moist, and if the skin surface wasn't humid enough, they wouldn't be able to breathe and would eventually die. This was the reason why many earthworms were sunburned on the road after the rain. In fact, they weren't actually sunburned. Before they died in the sun, they died of suffocation. It was reasonable to say that the fire certainly had an influence on the earthworm. But the rule given by the Black Tower was that only the large stick can hurt it. Therefore, Tang Mo couldn't use fire to deal with the earthworm. But he could use fire to limit the movements of the earthworm. There were too many fire groups gathered around its body. The big earthworm waved its tail and blocked the stick in Tang Mo's hand. It also wanted to use its head to extinguish the fires. However, these fires weren't the faint flames of the kerosene lamp. The earthworm strove hard to hit them, but it only made the fire smaller, not extinguishing them. The earthworm's screaming became more intense and it finally seemed to understand something. Rather than foolishly extinguishing the fire, it turned to the culprit. Hiss. Tang Mo sneered. Come, there are still 10 minutes. The thick wooden stick hit the earthworm's head. It was in so much pain that it screamed. The fires on the ground trapped the movements of the earthworm. It couldn't swing its big tail and make Tang Mo fly away like last time. Once its body touched a fireball, the flames didn't burn its body. However, its movements were paused for a second. Tang Mo found something out by chance and took advantage of it. During the fight, he noticed the conspicuous band on its body. The earthworm was symmetrical on both sides of its body and the length of the body from the back looked exactly the same. It was difficult to distinguish the position of each body section in a short amount of time. Only the nude pink band was very prominent. Tang Mo stared at only this place and struck it. Within 5 minutes, the band had a large gap and pink blood flowed from it. For a time, Tang Mo had the upper hand. But the flames on the ground were getting darker. The extremely high humidity of the air and the moisture in the soil made all the flames dim at a speed that was visible to the naked eye, until they were extinguished. Once the flames caused by Tang Mo's white sweater also died out due to the moisture, the big earthworm was freed and rushed angrily over to Tang Mo. Tang Mo's eyes narrowed and he jumped into the air to escape the earthworm. The tail of the earthworm suddenly moved. Tang Mo was unable to change his direction while in the air and was caught unprepared by the tail. He gritted his teeth and stared at the big earthworm who had come alive again. The big earthworm also stared at him with small eyes. Tang Mo didn't hesitate as he took off his own pants and lit it with the kerosene lamp. Hiss. Hiss. It was only one fire, but it was enough to make the earthworm angry. It rushed towards Tang Mo again. Tang Mo also rushed towards it with a stick. 8 minutes later, Tang Mo stood blankly in front of the tunnel and touched his clothes. The clothes that Tang Mo had taken off and burned were all returned to him. Then this game should be a full-fledged return with everything, a true copy as a security level. Tang Mo wondered, if I die while fighting the great earthworm, can I return? Tang Mo pondered the question before answering it. It shouldn't be. Tang Mo wasn't impatient the third time he entered the tunnel. He slowly walked through the tunnel as he pondered on everything he had seen. From meeting the red-haired man, triggering the main mission, meeting Kavis, acquiring the weapon, learning more rules of the game and fighting the boss in the end. If he used the big match, he would be able to kill the large earthworm. However, the Black Tower has set a rule in advance. Only the stick could hurt the earthworm. It wasn't enough to use fire to limit the movements of the earthworm. The earthworm was afraid of fire, the stick could injure it and the players couldn't use their abilities. These were restrictions given by the Black Tower, but they were also hints in a sense. How could he use the wooden stick to kill the earthworm? Tang Mo's footsteps suddenly stopped. Wait, could that wooden stick really kill the earthworm? The stick was just an ordinary and hard stick. There was absolutely no special reinforcement while the earthworm's skin was as hard as thick ceramic. Tang Mo used all his strength and designed the fire to block the earthworm's movements, only managing to cause some bleeding. This was almost his limit. Was there really a player who could kill it with a stick? Jack couldn't do it or he wouldn't be challenging the S3 instance until now. Could Fu Wenduo do it? Tang Mo didn't use Momo to contact the other person, but his heart already knew the answer, it couldn't be done. Not being able to use abilities and only using the stick whose physical quality was no match for poor weapons. It is forbidden to use abilities, the player can only use the kerosene lamp as a light and the wooden stick is the only thing that can harm the earthworm. Tang Mo read the rules of the Black Tower over and over again. Even the rats in the dungeon knows that Bill can't see the light. Can't see the light, hurried footsteps were heard from the dark tunnel. Tang Mo stood still and watched the red-haired man walking towards him. My god, are you the colleague who was sent to take over? It was the third time he heard this sentence. Tang Mo didn't respond. Instead, he asked calmly, who is Bill? The red-haired man was confused. Bill? Bill is, yes. Bill is crazy. Look at all my injuries. They are from Bill. The familiar words were once again heard. Tang Mo didn't listen this time as he seriously looked at the wounds on the red-haired man's chest. The red-haired man shrugged off responsibility and placed the kerosene lamp in Tang Mo's hands. Check what's going on. Don't let that monster out. I will come back, I'll be back. Tang Mo didn't look after him as he kept walking deeper into the tunnel with the kerosene lamp. He didn't walk fast this time. He was looking at the ground, as if he was thinking about something. He walked for 15 minutes when he heard a startled male voice in front of him. Ah. Where are my clothes? My clothes are gone. Tang Mo approached the man who spoke. The blonde Cavis was wearing only underwear and a pair of socks. He was staring at his bare body with horror. Then light came from the tunnel and Cavis turned to look. Using the dim lighting of the kerosene lamp, he clearly saw Tang Mo's face. Cavis looked at Tang Mo's unfazed demeanor and hurriedly cried out, Go. Go quickly. That monster is scary. You have to go. Tang Mo held the kerosene lamp in one hand and asked, Bill Cavis. Cavis asked with a strange expression, Do you know me? Why did you call my name? Tang Mo closed his eyes silently. The next moment, he picked up the wooden stick directly from the ground and slammed it into the bloody Bill Cavis' head. There was the crisp sound of the skull breaking as Bill looked up at Tang Mo in a panic. Why? Tang Mo threw away the big stick. I don't know, but the Black Tower wants you to die. I can only say, I'm sorry. Bill Cavis' eyes stayed wide open as he stared at Tang Mo with disbelief. Then his body fell to the right and he stopped breathing. At the same time, the Pudong district of Shanghai. As the sun was setting, a burly and foreign man suddenly appeared beside a manhole cover outside an old factory. He hadn't appeared for long when he saw a young woman waiting next to it. I was trying to clear the S2 instance nearby and decided to drop by and see you. How about it, Jack? Did you clear the S3 instance this time? Jack was depressed. Don't say it. As you know, my physical strength this morning was so strong that I could smash diamonds with my hand. I was so happy and came here to try and kill that annoying earthworm. But Tang Jiao, I really killed it this time. I tried it a total of 3 times. The last time, I used Dr. Luo's method and tied the stick to my hand and hit it. The third time I managed to smash it in the 19th minute, it was dead. But I still failed the mission. Why is this? Tang Jiao was shocked. You failed? Did you make a mistake? You killed the big earthworm but still failed the mission. Jack nodded angrily. Is the Black Tower lying to me? I don't think so. Tang Jiao thought for a moment. Did you clearly explain this instance to Dr. Luo? Only you like to challenge this S3 instance. I'm not interested in this dirty place and other people in the organization weren't interested after challenging it once. Dr. Luo hadn't awoken an ability and he isn't suitable to fight this instance. Did you describe the instance incorrectly? Is the main mission not killing the big earthworm? Jack scratched his head. No, I made it clear to Dr. Luo. I first met a red-haired man. After that, I met a dying blonde-haired man and then triggered the main task to kill the earthworm. Tang Jiao was puzzled. Right now, it is past 1800 hours. The game time is over. Go back today and tell to Dr. Luo in detail about everything you encountered. Then you can try clearing it again tomorrow. Okay, that is the only method. In the dark and moist tunnel, Tang Mo looked blankly at Bill's body on the ground and finally heard the Black Tower's voice. Ding dong. At 18:13 on November 30, 2017, the player Tang Mo has successfully cleared the single-player instance Kill Bill and obtained the reward Earthworm's Tears. The Earthworm's Tears. Tang Mo's face darkened after hearing the reward and he didn't respond. He stood in front of Bill's body for 10 minutes before giving up on the Black Tower sending him out of the instance. Now he couldn't choose to leave the instance and Bill Cavis was dead, so the option to exit the instance wasn't possible. According to the Mario's Monopoly game last time, he would have to get the reward to leave the instance. Tang Mo was silent for a long time. At last, he quietly picked up the big stick and the kerosene lamp, walking deeper into the tunnel. This time it was very strange. He had been dawdling outside for a long time but the earthworm hadn't broken through the cage and headed into the tunnel. Tang Mo only saw the earthworm after entering the underground cavern. Far away from the light of the kerosene lamp, a strange hissing sound was heard. The hissing sound was no different from the previous 2 times. However, this time it entered Tang Mo's ears and became the voice of a child. Hey, my band, there is a lot of blood, who hit me, whimper, why was I hit? Tang Mo, baby is a good baby, baby never eats people. Baby only likes to eat leaves. Why do you want to catch baby? Whimper, why do you want to hit baby? What did baby do wrong? It hurts a lot. All of a sudden, the child's voice sharpened. Ah. There is light. The hissing sound stopped and the earthworm circling the tattered iron cage no longer licked its wounds. It twisted its head and stared at the kerosene lamp in Tang Mo's hand. It hissed quickly. No light, no light. Then it rushed towards the kerosene lamp. It was so large that it looked like it was going to attack Tang Mo. Tang Mo immediately smashed the kerosene lamp. The world once again became dark and the body of the large earthworm froze in midair. Tang Mo couldn't see it and didn't know what it was doing now. 1 human and 1 earthworm froze. After a few minutes, Tang Mo heard the sound of a heavy object being dragged against the ground. It seemed that someone was crawling on the ground, listening to the sound of any movements. It was moving cautiously towards Tang Mo. The sound came closer and eventually stopped. Tang Mo couldn't see it but he could vaguely feel this thing circling him a few times, like it was looking at him. After a few seconds, something slippery rubbed against the back of Tang Mo's hands. Tang Mo thought of the earthworm's big and sticky head and felt a bit disgusted. But the hissing voice was heard again. It is wet and sticky, like, Bill's blood was on Tang Mo's hand so it was certainly wet. Tang Mo sighed and endured his nausea, reaching out to touch the big head. He tried to make his voice sound less malicious. I'm sorry I hit you. The author has something to say. Big earthworm, whimper, why did you hit baby? QAQ. Abilities book baby, hey. Don't grab my baby status. Tang Tang, shut up.